What's going on, everyone? I'm your host, JT, back to you guys with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I wanted to give my thoughts on the recent NFL head coaching hires. Let's first talk about the Houston Texans hiring DeMeco Ryans. I love this hire. For those of you guys who think that the Houston Texans have no talent and that DeMeco Ryans has to come in and rebuild this thing from the ground up, you may be surprised just how fast the Houston Texans may be able to get this thing turned around. DeMeco Ryans isn't going to a team that has zero talent at all. As a matter of fact, the Houston Texans behind the Seattle Seahawks probably had the best rookie class from last year's draft. They had a phenomenal group of rookie DBs on this team. Derek Stingley, he was pretty solid. And under DeMeco Ryans, he probably will end up becoming one of the best cornerbacks in the league. You have Jalen Petrie, who was a monster. He led Houston in tackles. Not just that, but he was the best rookie safety. Then you have linebacker Christian Harris. On the offensive side of the football, you have running back Dameon Pierce. There's some talent that DeMeco Ryans is going to be able to work with. And on the defensive side of the football, the guys that I just mentioned, they're probably going to end up becoming maybe Pro Bowl caliber, all-pro level players. DeMeco Ryans, I think, is going to work in Houston. This is a culture hire. You don't really see too many culture hires in the NFL. You see a lot of culture hires in college football where oftentimes you have guys who had a lot of success playing at a certain school. Then they end up going back, becoming head coaches there. They rally the fan base. The school gets behind them. The community gets behind them. But you don't really have a lot of these in the NFL, which makes this really interesting. DeMeco Ryans had a pretty good amount of success during his playing days as a linebacker in the NFL. In the 6 seasons that he spent with the Houston Texans, he was one of the best linebackers in the league. He won the Defensive Rookie of the Year award his rookie season. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler with the Texans. You have somebody who's going to not only be able to relate to the fans, but he's going to be able to relate to these players. Not to mention, he is a fantastic football coach. He knows his stuff. He makes good adjustments. He has coached the NFL's best defense for the past 2 seasons. It's really crazy how the 49ers really went from Robert Saleh to DeMeco Ryans. How is it that Kyle Shanahan just inherited 2 great defensive coordinators that will eventually go on to being head coaches? And this is going to be a long-term thing. I don't think this is going to be a one-and-done move because it wouldn't make any sense for them to give him a 6-year deal and then fire him if things don't go right in the first season. I think with DeMeco Ryans having so much support, not just from the fan base, but people from within the franchise, they're going to give this time. And they're going to allow him to establish a winning culture in Houston. Houston hasn't really had a good amount of success since they had Bill O'Brien. And as much as people like to talk down on Bill O'Brien, Bill O'Brien may be one of the more successful coaches that this franchise has had. DeMeco Ryans is going to a situation where, you are a little bit concerned because he is a defensive mind and you're going to have to address the quarterback situation, and you most likely will be drafting either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And when you have a defensive minded head coach, you don't really know how the quarterback situation is going to go. And there are a lot of offensive minds in the game now. It seems like the NFL has shifted towards more offensive minded coaches who specialize on that side of the football, but that still doesn't mean that there's no chance that DeMeco Ryans can get the quarterback situation right. All he has to do is hire the right offensive coordinator. And coming from that Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, I'm pretty sure he knows plenty of guys who are going to be good on that side of the football. Robert Saleh whiffed on his hire. That was Robert Saleh. I'm pretty sure that DeMeco Ryans is smart enough to learn from the mistakes of others. I'm pretty sure he's going to learn from the mistake that Robert Saleh made. in New York, which kind of was a little weird because there are reports coming out that said that his offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur, who he fired, was against drafting Zach Wilson because he didn't feel Zach Wilson was a fit in his system, but they went ahead and drafted him anyway, allegedly. DeMeco Ryans, I don't think he's going to make that same mistake. I think he's going to be somebody who listens to the people around him, and it's going to be a concerted effort. DeMeco Ryans is going to be able to find the quarterback to lead his team, rather it be in free agency or via the draft. He's a good motivator. He puts a lot of emphasis on being able to develop his players and build relationships with them. And CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, either one of those guys would be a fantastic fit with the Houston Texans. Ideally, you want Bryce Young, but CJ Stroud, I don't think he's too far off. I also think he's one of the best quarterback prospects to come out. Not on the level of a CJ Stroud on the Trevor Lawrence, but I definitely think that he's one of the better QBs that we've seen come out in recent memory. The Houston Texans, they do have to find some more playmakers on offense. Wide receiver outside of Brandon Cooks, you don't really have too much there. You do have Nico Collins. He flashed at times, but you need to get some more talent in the receiving room. Offensive line needs some work. Then on defense, you need another cornerback too. On the opposite side of Derek Stingley, yeah, you do have Steven Nelson, who is okay, but you need to get younger. All right, get younger there. Bring in another young cornerback. Bring in another pass rusher. The Houston Texans, I wouldn't be surprised if DeMeco Ryans gets this thing rolling next season. This division is not great. Jacksonville, they're probably going to be the team to beat in the AFC South moving forward, simply for the fact that you have Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence has hit ascension mode. And then we haven't even seen the best of Trevor Lawrence yet. Next season, if you thought this year is crazy, wait till you see next season. Trevor Lawrence is going to be putting up MVP caliber numbers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be even better. So they're going to be the team to beat. Indianapolis, they're in an even worse spot than the Houston Texans because you have a couple of core guys like Darius Leonard. You got a pretty good defensive line, but I mean, you don't really have a lot of playmakers on offense. You don't even know what you're going to do at the quarterback position, and you're not going to have the option of being able to get a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud without having to give up the farm for them. So you may end up having to get a Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. You have an owner that kind of likes to stick his hands in things. So I don't really think the Colts are going to be that big of a threat moving forward. But we still don't know who their head coach is going to be. But I think that Houston, with the way this division is, Tennessee, they're super old and they have concerns at a lot of positions, especially quarterback. What are they going to do moving forward? What's going on with their offensive coordinator? So Houston, if they get quarterback right and DeMeco Ryans is the coach that we believe him to be, I believe that DeMeco Ryans in Houston could make some noise next season. I like this hire. I think this hire is going to work. Let's talk about another hire. This is one that I have been wanting to see, even though I would have loved him in Arizona. Sean Payton is heading to Denver. The Denver Broncos have traded for Sean Payton. He will be their next head coach. The New Orleans Saints receive a 2023 first-round pick via the 49ers and the Denver Broncos 2023 second-round pick. Of course, the Broncos are getting Sean Payton, and they're getting a 2024 third-round selection from New Orleans. Sean Payton, I think he can fix Russell Wilson. I talked about it a couple of days ago. I was watching a couple of Denver Bronco games late in the season, and Russell Wilson, he looked pretty good. He made some really nice throws. He had a really nice throw against the Chargers. Like, I don't think Russell Wilson is to the point of no return. All right. There has been some articles coming out about how some anonymous NFL executives believe Russell Wilson is washed. But even if he is washed, he's going to Sean Payton. Do you remember what Sean Payton did his final season in New Orleans? You may go to Google and look up his coaching record and you say, oh, JT, he went 9-8. That was nothing impressive. Look at the context of that 9-8 season. Sean Payton in New Orleans started out 5-1 on top of the division with Jameis Winston, as a matter of fact. Jameis Winston, remember Mr. Turnover, Mr. 30 for 30? Yeah. At that point, before he went down with that season-ending injury, the Saints were 5-1 on top of the NFC South, and he had the best touchdown to interception ratio in the league, and he outdueled Aaron Rodgers week 1 that year. He goes down, and you think the Saints season is over. But no. You got Taysom Hill, Ian Book, Trevor Siemian coming in there, and yet New Orleans still found a way to go 9-8 with the revolving door that they had at the quarterback position. Then, that same season, they had probably the worst receiving core in the NFL that year. Do you know who Sean Payton's number 1 receiver was his last season in New Orleans? It was Marquez Callaway. Do you know what Marquez Callaway did this past season? Yeah, I don't know neither, because he wasn't starting. Sean Payton with Denver can work some magic, all right? There are coaches out there who are so good that you just give them a little bit of talent to work with and they can make it work. There are way too many weapons on Denver for this thing to fail. The offensive line was banged up this season. If they get healthy with a couple of more additions and improvement, this could be a solid offensive line. Now, wide receiver, you're already secured there. You got Jerry Jeudy. He had a fantastic year this season when they were able to find ways to get him the football. You have Tim Patrick coming back. Yeah, remember him? Yeah, he got injured right before the season started, I believe. Or really early into the year. I forgot when he got injured. But all the point is, he got injured. He's coming back. You still got Cortland Sutton there. You got a really good tight end. You are loaded at running back. You got Javonte Williams. Do people forget how talented the Denver Broncos were going into this season? When they were fully healthy, this was one of the most talented rosters in the NFL, even if you do take Russell Wilson off this team. Before Russell Wilson got traded to Denver, people were saying that Denver was a head coach and a quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl. Were we or were we not saying that? It wasn't last year, last offseason wasn't too far ago. I know it's been a year, I know we're in 2023, but let's not all act like we weren't acknowledging how talented Denver was from a roster standpoint. And their defense was a top 5 unit. If I'm Sean Payton, I try to keep their defensive coordinator. He's one of the best in the league. Their defense was outstanding. And their players are really passionate for him. They go hard for their defensive coordinator. So if Sean Payton can keep this defensive coordinator, that would be a fantastic move. If not, I trust that he'll end up bringing in the right guy. This is a really talented defense. You got Patrick Surtain. You got one of the best safeties in the league and Jonathan Simmons. This is a really good Denver Broncos team. You don't need fantastic play from Russell Wilson. You just need average play from Russell Wilson. Yes, you're in a division with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, but who really cares? The Chargers defense hasn't looked good since when? Brendan Staley is a defensive-minded coach, and the defense has not looked good one bit. And they went out and got all those players that they needed, and even though they dealt with injuries, even when they were healthy, they weren't that great defensively. Then you got Kansas City. Okay, yeah, we're going to see how they handle Kansas City. But let's not act like Sean Payton is some slouch. Let's not act like Sean Payton is some unproven coach. Sean Payton is one of the greatest offensive minds in the history of this game. I have faith in Sean Payton. You don't need to have faith in Russell Wilson. Why do people keep making this thing be about Russell Wilson? Yes, we know he has the bad contract. But stop asking, how's this thing going to work with Russell Wilson? This thing is going to work not because of Russell Wilson, but because of Sean Payton. Stop putting your faith in Russell Wilson. Put your faith and Sean Payton, the dude who just broke the head coach market. Put your faith in him. Why do people put their faith in players sometimes? Like, players, yes, they are the reason for the majority of the success in this world, but coaching matters. Coaching matters, people. Look what Sean Payton did. I'm pretty sure that Russell Wilson is no worse than Taysom Hill, Ian Book, or Trevor Siemian. And don't come in the comment section trying to be funny. I'm being real serious right now. If Sean Payton can go 9-8 with what the hell he had at 9-8, with what the hell he had to work with his final season in New Orleans, he can win in Denver with Russell Wilson. And if all else fails, I'm pretty sure he's going to have a pretty quality backup. Now, the problems are you got cap problems. You don't really got draft picks. You're strapped. It doesn't matter. Denver already has a good amount of talent. And you got Sean Payton. Even if this team isn't going to be able to win a Super Bowl next season or in the near future, it's not really about that. All it really is about is making the most of this Russell Wilson situation, okay? You just got to try to squeeze whatever juice you can squeeze out of Russell Wilson until he decides to hang it up or his contract gets to a point where you can cut him and not have too much dead cap that ends up negatively affecting you from a cap space standpoint. So, Sean Payton, I think he's going to work in Denver. They're paying this dude a lot of money. I feel like they're going to give him whatever he needs to be successful. They're going to try to find ways to build up the cap space back. I'm not really too concerned about the draft picks. I mean, this team is already pretty good. Yeah, you may lose a couple of guys, but you got Sean Payton. You get what I'm saying? That's all you really should care about is the fact that you have Sean Payton. Put your trust in Sean Payton. Stop asking me, well, JT, how's he go? Sean Payton. Okay, that's going to be my response to every negative comment or question I get about the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton. All right, I'm going to say it one more time. I don't have my faith in Russell Wilson. I don't have my faith in Jerry Jeudy. I don't have my faith in John Elway. I have my faith in Sean Payton. He went 9-8 his final season in New Orleans, playing musical chairs at the quarterback position. What happened to Jameis Winston? You guys know how much I love Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston at one point was my favorite player in the NFL. Where was Jameis Winston this year? He got benched for Andy Dalton. But when Sean Payton was there, though, and Sean Payton was working his golden hands, Jameis Winston had the best touchdown to interception ratio in the league. Put your faith in Sean Payton. This is going to work, all right? I know he's in a division with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, but guess what, people? One player doesn't win games. It's a team effort. They don't have Sean Payton. Brandon Staley is not Sean Payton. As a matter of fact, Sean Payton is probably going to coach circles around Brandon Staley. He's probably going to be laughing at the Chargers ownership every time they end up walking into the locker room after they get done beating the Chargers. Because the Chargers probably should have fired Brandon Staley and traded for Sean Payton. But they wouldn't because they're too cheap. And that's just not how they roll. And you look at the games that the Chargers played against the Broncos this past season. I mean, bruh, with a better head coach, the Broncos probably win. Brandon Staley is not a great coach. He's a smart guy, but not a great coach. And Andy Reid, come on, man. Sean Payton. Come on, Sean Payton, Andy Reid. One of the best head coaching matchups that we're going to see in the NFL. Two of the best minds in NFL history on the offensive side of football going head to head. I don't think Andy Reid's just going to wash out Sean Payton. And the Broncos got a really good defense. All you just need is a little bit of juice. For all we know, they can end up being the best running football team in the league next season. All I know is this. This is going to work. All right? You have one of the best head coaches in the history of this sport. Yeah, he has a couple of losing seasons here and there, but He's going to get this thing right. He's going to find a way to make the most of this whole Russell Wilson debacle, all right? Russell Wilson came in and made himself an office and, wanted to stretch on planes and stuff. And he kind of became disconnected with the team. But players still love Russ. Yeah, there are players who wanted to punch him in the face and players who screamed at him. But Russell Wilson is never going to be a guy, even no matter how bad he plays, that you're just going to hate or that you're just going to have disdain for. I don't think Russell Wilson has completely lost the locker room. You got to remember who the hell his head coach was. Nathaniel Hackett. I was telling you Broncos fans before the season started last year that Nathaniel Hackett was not going to work. It wasn't going to work. But instead, y'all wanted to just say, nah, JT, nah, like he didn't. He had Blake Bortles when he was calling the plays in Jacksonville. Okay, and Kyle Shanahan's calling the plays and went to the NFC Championship with Brock Purdy, Mr. Relevant. Stop making excuses, man. Nathaniel Hackett, he didn't help Russell Wilson either. He didn't put him in situations to succeed. Sean Payton, being a better head coach, I promise you're going to get a better performance out of Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson is going to be committed. Russell Wilson called Sean Payton, allegedly, and said that he would be honored for the opportunity to be coached by Sean Payton. Russell Wilson isn't this uncoachable guy. Sean Payton is also a pretty good culture guy. Players love playing for Sean Payton. Players always have a lot of great things to say about Sean Payton, minus Bountygate. All right, but let's just, sweep that under the rug or, ball that up and throw that away right now. Don't y'all bring that Bountygate. All right? But yeah, I think that Sean Payton is going to work with the Denver Broncos. You're going to most likely have a good staff. It's not going to be too hard to convince people to want to coach under Sean Payton. You're going to get the best everything. You're going to have a really good offensive coordinator, a really good defensive coordinator. And it's going to be really interesting how Sean Payton, how Sean Payton goes about assembling his staff. Because this is really the first time that Sean Payton has really had to venture out and assemble a whole entire staff. During New Orleans, he had his same entire coaching staff, his whole entire tenure there. Most of the guys there. Sean Payton is probably going to have to go out and hire some guys who most of us may be familiar with. Maybe some guys who are coming up the coaching ladder, but the coaching staff is going to be really good. And I think that Russell Wilson is going to be getting the best coaching that he can receive at this point in his career. I think that this is going to work, but you guys let me know how you guys feel about this. The last thing I want to talk about is apparently, according to Ian Rappaport, the Denver Broncos wanted to hire 49ers defensive coordinator, now Houston Texans head coach, DeMeco Ryans, as their next head coach. In this tweet that Ian Rappaport tweeted out, he said, the Broncos spent today trying to hire DeMeco Ryans again today before he recommitted to the Texans. Sources say when he agreed to terms with the Texans, they moved and finalized Sean Payton. I don't know, man. Judging from the reports and what has been coming out there before these moves were made, it seemed like Sean Payton was always the number one option for the Denver Broncos. I mean, maybe they didn't want to give up so much compensation, but I don't really think what they gave up was too bad. Yeah, you probably would have liked to hold on to those picks, but I don't really think that DeMeco Ryans was always on board for going to Denver and having to work with that situation, dealing with Russell Wilson. Yeah, you inherit a fantastic defense, but you will have to really get the offensive coordinator right, and you will really have to do everything you could to squeeze whatever remaining juice out of Russell Wilson. That wasn't really the great spot for a young head coach like a DeMeco Ryans. So if the Broncos really did have DeMeco Ryans as their number one candidate allegedly. I don't really think that would have worked at all. You see Robert Saleh struggling with the quarterback situation with the New York Jets. Why would DeMeco Ryans go to that situation with an even worse situation with a quarterback that you kind of have no choice to start because of how much money you're paying them? Like, if you're a defensive-minded head coach, you would stay far away from that situation as possible. If he would have went to Denver, I don't think that would have worked at all. Houston is such a much better fit. And Sean Payton is just a better fit for Denver. They need one of the greatest offensive minds in the history of the game to fix one of the worst mistakes in the history of this game. Paying Russell Wilson all that money may be the worst contract decision in the history of this league, which is why when you make a big mistake, you need a big name to come clean it up. Sean Payton is going to be that dude who comes in with the nice sunglasses and the nice shade, probably rolling down the windows of his old 1987 Corvette, walking out with the red carpet. And he's going to come in that thing with that suitcase. He's going to open that thing up with that playbook. He's going to print it out. He's going to make copies. He's going to hand it out to all the players. He's going to go up to Russell Wilson. He's going to say, hey, man, come here. We're going to get this thing right. Sean Payton is one of the greatest minds in the offensive side of the football in the history of this game. I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to get the remaining juice that Russell Wilson has left, if any. And if this doesn't work, shoot, you can still find a way to get a good backup quarterback in there for a pretty solid price. You still have the option of going after a Gardner Minshew or a Taylor Heineke. So you can still find a way to make this situation manageable, even if you can't find a way to elevate Russell Wilson. Shoot, if it comes down to having to bench Russell Wilson despite the contract, I guess he's going to end up being the highest paid backup in NFL history. Because I can't see Sean Payton tolerating Russell Wilson performing that bad just because of the contract. Heck, he ain't paying him. Yeah, it may have been in the stipulation that when he first got hired that, hey, fix Russell Wilson, but what matters more? Trying to fix somebody and trying to find ways to win and losing games, or finding ways to win in spite of having that guy maybe having to sit on the bench? It just is what it is. You can't be political when it comes to trying to win championships. You never win when you play politics. Every time you play politics, you end up overlooking something. Sean Payton, I don't think he's going to end up overlooking trying to win games just to try to find a way to squeeze some juice out of Russell Wilson. If he can't get anything out of Russell Wilson and he tries his best, I believe that Russell Wilson's going to get benched. The Denver Broncos have hired Sean Payton as their next head coach. The Houston Texans have named DeMeco Ryans their new head coach. Let me know what you guys think about these hirings down in the comment section down below. And make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. We upload NFL videos, college football videos daily. Make sure that you check out the JT Sports Podcast, available on all podcasting platforms, wherever you get your podcasts from, Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. You can find the JT Sports Podcast, and I will see you guys with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.